I don't think I've ever seen a star cooperating witness get his knees chopped out quite as clearly and dramatically as what just happened with Michael Cohen. I've certainly seen very effective cross-examinations of cooperating witnesses. I've seen aspects of their story cut into and called into question, but this goes to the heart of the allegation here, that phone call on October 24th, and it looks to the jury and to Anderson Cooper and Kara Scannell and Judge George Grasso, who are all in the courthouse, that was a devastating moment.
A devastating moment. A devastating moment doesn't even come close to describing what just happened in that courtroom. Yesterday's Michael Cohen testimony was the sinking Titanic of testimonies. It was the Hindenburg of hearings. It was an absolute nightmare for the prosecution, of course, against Trump. And we're going to get a front row seat to exactly what happened. You're not going to want to miss this. Also, we got Putin and Xi remaking the freaking world. A new civilizationalist world order is rising right in front of our very eyes. We're going to be talking about that. And the Netherlands gets the single most right-wing government in the whole of Western Europe. There is so much news to cover out there. And of course, the advantage of this channel is I'm going to give you an overall interpretive and analytical frame to understand it all and how it all relates to each other. You're not going to want to miss it. Greetings, everyone. It is Live Stream Friday. I am your humble host, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you stay sane in these insane times. And they are literally insane. We'll talk about that a little bit more today. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. This is another special Live Stream Friday, not simply because we've got so much amazing stuff going on, but because of the rollout of our brand new Turley Talks app, our very own platform that can never, ever, ever be canceled. We built this private platform in response to the news that YouTube has once again totally and completely demonetized this channel for a second time in a row. We complied with everything they required of us the first time in the first round of demonetization. And then when we reapplied, they moved the goalposts and they came up with an entirely new infraction to keep us completely and totally demonetized for the foreseeable future. So according to Google and YouTube, our channel now features, as you can see over there, we now feature, quote, harmful content. Our videos are now deemed harmful content to YouTube's audience, and we have been cut off completely from all monetization for the foreseeable future. But what these big tech tyrants did not know when they were canceling us is that we've been preparing for a moment just like this. For the last several months, we've been building our so-called ARC, our brand new Turley Talks app. It's a beautiful personal app that you can download completely free, as well as join one of our levels of support to financially help us during a difficult time like this. So just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com to make an account, download the app. And after you make an account, check your inbox for a very special welcome where you can read and sign our Declaration of Restoration. That's the petition to big tech that you can sign right now. Put your name on it. That informs these tech tyrants that a new day has dawned. They are no longer in control. We are taking our nation back. Over 1,000 of you have already signed it. It's absolutely amazing. Also, if you want to ask me a question today, because our super chats have been disabled, you can just click on the link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com, sign up for any support level you like, and you have instant access to our private virtual platform where you can ask me any question you like, and I'll answer it here right on this live stream. So just click on that link, sign up for any level of support, and I'll answer your questions. It will be my honor to do so. All right, let's dive right in here. So yesterday, defense attorneys for President Trump unleashed what many are calling an absolutely devastating cross-examination on the court-declared serial liar, serial perjurer, Michael Cohen, who, keep in mind, is the star witness for the prosecution. No, not the porn star. No, she was just part of the prosecution's circus freak show. The real star witness is a serial liar declared by a court to be such, and he did not disappoint. Michael Cohen completely and totally fell apart on cross-examination. Now, here's what you got to get here. Here are the stakes yesterday. The prosecution's entire case, all right? This is the rubber hitting the road. The prosecution's entire case, again, comprised of a circus of porn stars and National Enquirer tabloid publishers and Billy Bush tapes and the like. This prosecutor's case all comes down to a single phone call. It all comes down to a single phone call, and here's the key, that Michael Cohen said took place. That Michael Cohen claims took place. That Michael Cohen alleges took place. Cohen claims that he called Trump's head of security and informed him that the Stormy Daniels hush money payment was all taken care of. Let the boss know we're good. We're good. That, as it turns out, was the prosecution's entire case. You literally cannot make this stuff up. Cohen, right on the witness stand, he alleged that he called Trump's head of security and told him the payment was all taken care of. That was the sole supposed direct link between Trump and Michael Cohen paying off the porn star. Remember, Trump never paid anybody. It was the Trump organization. Trump doesn't, there's no signature, there's no documents with his signature on it. Trump has from what we could see, there was absolutely no objective ordering by Trump to pay off Stormy Daniels. It was Michael Cohen who paid her off. So what they're trying to do is they're saying, this is the phone call that established Trump knew it. Trump approved of it. He directed the payment. And this is it. This was all to try to cover up this alleged affair during his campaign in 2016. So how did that alleged claim, that purported phone conversation, turn out upon cross-examination? Here's Jesse Waters to explain it.
Hey, it came out, the call never happened. Trump's defense lawyers showed Cohen a sheet of text messages on the night he claims he made that call. Turns out Cohen had been getting prank calls from a 14-year-old and called Trump's security chief to ask if he could sic the Secret Service on him. Trump's defense attorney raising his voice, zeroing in on Cohen. That was a lie. You did not talk to President Trump. Cohen panicked, shifted in his seat, voice cracking. I'm not certain that's accurate, but the call logs don't lie. It was a Perry Mason moment. Sources inside the courtroom tell us the entire jury's jaw hit the floor. And never Trump or George Conway put his hands to his face and stared at the ceiling.
It couldn't possibly get worse. Think about that. Not only did the call never happen, right? They have the objective proof. They've got the phone records from the night that Cohen claimed it happened. Not only did the phone call never happen, it gets worse. Cohen actually did make a phone call, but it was to sic Secret Service thugs on a freaking 14-year-old. I mean, he doesn't just get caught in a lie. He gets caught in a lie at the same time he's discovered trying to kick a bunch of puppies. I mean, the guy is soulless. But there was no recovering from that. Obviously, even CNN had to admit it was an absolute train wreck.
Cohen was cornered in what appeared to be a lie, I think, to many in the room, and had to adjust suddenly his memory that he had just testified to on Tuesday.
Anderson, let me ask you, if I can put you in the jury box, having just witnessed that piece of cross-examination, do you have doubts that conversation happened the way Michael Cohen testified on his direct examination, that he called Trump into
I think it's absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's devastating, for Michael Cohen's credibility on this, in this one particular topic, whether it's, he just didn't, it's hard to, I don't know. Yes, I think if I was a juror in this case watching that, I would think this guy's making this up as he's going along, or he's making this particular story up.
as is Anderson Cooper right there. Ironically, he doesn't know what to say. I mean, he got cornered. Was on this particular issue. Do you think he was lying? What particular? This is the centerpiece. This is the crux of the case. On this one issue, it looks like his credibility came into doubt. The crux of the link, the supposed link between Trump and payment and the actual $130,000 hush money payment just got shattered. There's no case now, by definition. Here's more from Jesse Waters.
Testimony was a disaster. Trump's lawyer played for the jury. Michael Cohen sounding like a lunatic on his podcasts. A very different Michael Cohen from what the jury had seen inside of court.
I truly hope that this man ends up in prison. It won't bring back the year that I lost or the damage done to my family, but revenge is a dish best served cold. And you better believe I want this man to go down and rot inside for what he did to me and my family. He is about to get a taste of what I went through, and I promise you, it's not fun.
Jurors peered up at Cohen while the tape played. They were embarrassed for him. Cohen looked down at the ground, also embarrassed. Imagine being a juror, listening, and realize you just spent your whole month away from work, away from your family, to listen to a case in which the star witness is exposed as a fanatic seeking revenge on the defendant. The defense caught Cohen in lie after lie. At one point, the lawyer says, "Did you ever ask for a pardon?" Cohen says no. Then the lawyer pulled out a deposition where Cohen asked for a pardon. The whole courtroom just shakes their head.
Now, again, keep in mind, gang, this was their star witness. This was the guy who was going to link Trump directly to a payment that Trump never made. The porn star was just the warm-up, right? She was just literally there for sideshow entertainment. This Michael Cohen, this was their star witness. He alone was going to provide the testimony that would put Trump behind bars. Speaking of, here's Michael Avenatti's take. Remember Michael Avenatti, the creepy porn lawyer, right? The once darling of MSNBC and CNN. He appeared on those fledgling cable news shows dozens upon dozens of times. They actually thought he would one day be a great Democrat presidential candidate. That tells you all you need to know about MSNBC and CNN. Now he's serving time in prison, but he took to X and wrote, quote, "Cohen's testimony is a light plane crash with no survivors. When Blanche is done with him, Cohen's dental records will not be sufficient to identify him. What a disaster for DA Bragg, the prosecution and all those on the left who thought Cohen was the savior." By the way, I think Avenatti is looking for a pardon. Have you noticed how much he's been coming out on Trump's side of late? I think he's reading the writing on the wall. He sees 45 becoming 47, and he's hoping for a pardon and he's getting out of prison that way. So he's defending Trump every step of the way. But I think he recognizes it. This was a plane crash with no survivors. So instead of a Cohen collapse, we can call this a Cohen crash, right? All right. So where do we go from here? Well, after the government mercifully closes its case, okay, after the prosecution rests its non-case, I should say, the defense is going to move for what's called a directed verdict. Okay. In other words, they will ask Judge Merchan to end the case before it's even given to the jury. So my namesake, Jonathan Turley, right, professor of law at George Washington University, he believes absolutely that should be the case. This should be a direct, if ever there was a case study in a justified directed verdict, it is this circus, this 3.5 week circus that we've all been subjected to. In other words, the judge should intervene and declare the defendant, President Trump, not guilty on the basis that the evidence is insufficient to sustain a conviction. In other words, it's the judge's opinion that this, whatever conviction were a conviction to be handed down, would automatically get overturned on appeal. In fact, it actually, frankly, it goes even deeper than that, gang. I mean, there's, as again, Jonathan Turley points out, there's still total confusion as to what crime Trump is actually being accused of. We don't even know what the crime is. Remember, the original charge was a misdemeanor of falsifying business records by claiming, again, this is Trump's accountants, guys, right? The accountants claimed that the $130,000 payment by the Trump organization to Michael Cohen for his payment to Stormy Daniels was a legal expense. That was the original charge. The original charge was a misdemeanor of falsifying business records by claiming that a supposed hush money payment was a legal expense. The problem was that the statute of limitations ran out on that years ago. And so the Manhattan DA's office had to zap this charge back to life by turning it into a felony. And they turned it into a felony by accusing Trump of falsifying the business records in order to cover up another crime. So in New York law, if you falsify business records in order to cover up another crime, then that's a felony. The problem is we don't know what that other crime is. Was it paying Stormy Daniels hush money? Sorry, that's not a crime. It's done all the time. That guy Pecker from what's it? The tabloid, the National Enquirer, said we do this all the time. This is, Schwarzenegger's doing it. Everyone's doing it. Stars literally have an account of hush money payments. It's not that it actually happened. They just don't want to deal with the bad press that comes with it. Okay, so it's not the hush money. That's not a crime. Oh, no. It was paying Stormy Daniels in order to keep her alleged affair hidden from Trump's campaign. But the problem is hush money payments are campaign expenses. It has nothing to do objectively with a campaign. How is paying hush money akin to paying a pollster or paying a campaign advisor? And to add insult to injury, how could that in any way relate to falsifying business records? The designation of the $130,000 as a legal expense, it was designated by an accountant after the election, not before, not during, after. So we don't even know what crime he's being charged for. So what it appears, what's really going on here is that Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, when all is said and done, he is counting on this jury to convict Trump solely for being Donald Trump. That's the crime he's ultimately guilty of. His crime is being Donald Trump. This is the epitome of a banana republic style weaponized legalism. It is the epitome of looking for a crime to convict a man of, rather than looking for a man to be convicted of a crime that actually objectively took place. It's the epitome of looking for a crime in order to convict a man, rather than looking for a man in order to be convicted of a crime. It is an affront to everything that a constitutional republic claims to be. Brought to you by the effing Democrats. And it's being brought to you by the Democrats because they do not believe it is an open admission that Biden cannot win in November. And so they're trying to take Trump out. This is an affront to a democratic republic, as this is as much of an affront to a democratic republic that we have ever faced. And the media couldn't give a shit. The media is playing right along with it. They're actually, Anderson Cooper is trying to find words to explain how stupefied he is at the absurdity of this case. Like Wile E. Coyote, no matter what they do, chasing after the Roadrunner, no matter what they do, every time they try to take Trump out, it only ends up blowing up in their face. So we'll keep an eye on Judge Merchant and on whether he's willing to grant a directed verdict in this obvious circus sideshow. But What is not a circus is what's happening across the globe right now as we speak in Beijing. You're not going to believe what's happening there. The world order is actually and truly changing. But first, if you're just joining us, if you want to ask me your questions, because YouTube has suspended our super chats, they've totally demonetized us, just click on that link below. Download our beautiful brand new app. Join any one of our levels of support, and you have access to our own virtual platform where you can ask me all the questions you like. I'll be happy to answer them on this live stream. Also, as you know, it's springtime out there, and the bees are out buzzing around, but they're doing a lot more than just pollinating. Now bees are saving America from the woke wave of leftist culture that's trying to wipe out all that's good and true. I kid you not. Turley Talks is teaming up with MakeHoneyGreatAgain.com to bring you something truly spectacular, MAGA honey. Gang, I'm telling you, this is amazing stuff. You can now get a 16-ounce bottle of pure, raw, ultra MAGA honey packaged in a bottle. Looks just like our great president, Donald Trump. It's untouched, raw honey. It comes straight from 11,000 hives in South Carolina. And I'm telling you, honey never tasted as good as it does coming from a Trump-inspired bottle. All natural. It's wonderful. Trust me, this is amazing. You're going to love it. It's going to make for a great gift as well. So what are you waiting for, Dan? Click on that link below or go to MakeHoneyGreatAgain.com. Use promo code Turley to show your support. We can make honey and America great again. I love this product, and you will too. Click on that link below right now. Make honey great again. I love it. All right, gang. A new civilizational world order continues to take shape. Russian President Vladimir Putin is in China this week on an official visit with Chinese President Xi Jinping. The two world leaders pledged to deepen their strategic partnership, which they have already declared just months back as limitless. Putin, whose delegation includes top defense and security officials, was welcomed by Xi to Beijing's Great Hall of the People earlier with full military pageantry, heralding the start of the Russian president's two-day official state visit. CNN is reporting that a sweeping joint statement released by the two leaders laid out their country's realignment on a host of issues, including energy, trade, security, geopolitics, obviously with special references to Ukraine, Taiwan, and what's happening today in the Middle East, all the various flashpoints on the globe. It was a visit that was extremely significant in that this was President Putin's first overseas official visit after being inaugurated for his new term as Russia's president. So the symbolism here, unmistakably, is that China is now officially Russia's number one ally. It is Henry Kissinger's worst nightmare come true. Remember, détente was centered on splitting apart China from Russia. That was Kissinger's centerpiece of his geopolitical strategy. You have to split apart China and Russia. And he was very successful in doing that. And so for decades, China was seen as the good guy here in the United States. We were able to largely isolate Soviet Russia by bringing China into the trade fold via Deng and his policy of managed capitalism. And China became the major trade partner of the United States. It really, and that was more or less the de facto state of affairs until Trump in 2016, where he foregrounded how much China was actually taking advantage of the United States, surpassing the United States, and we need to start getting tough with China. And ever since then, ironically, again, Trump has helped to reshape world order in a very interesting way. Ever since then, China has been seen increasingly as an adversary. But what really drove Russia and China together, of course, was the bumbling Biden administration's weaponization of the U.S.-led globalized financial system. Immediately after the United States and the EU sanctioned the central bank of the Russian Federation and weaponized the economic system of the liberal international order against Russia shortly after its invasion of Ukraine, Russia responded by requiring all nations sanctioning them to pay for Russian exports, particularly fuel and fertilizer, in rubles. And those Russian exports only ended up going through the roof And this is largely because Russia turned to the east, particularly in non-sanctioned nations like China and India, two other rising civilization states. So Russia turned to them to sell their commodities, and demand for Russian oil just skyrocketed, which isn't surprising given that India and China together comprise 40% of the world's population. The high prices of commodities further contributed to the strength of the ruble, all the while oil and gas trade hit an all-time high for Russia. Moreover, when Russia was punished by SWIFT, which is the worldwide financial transaction system that had been weaponized against Russia. SWIFT is basically, it's the cardiovascular system of globalization, right? Well, Russia said no problem. They totally weaned themselves off from SWIFT. When SWIFT basically, it was an international debanking of Russia. So Russia instead began using China's alternative financial transaction platform, which is called KIPS. And KIPS it's growing even bigger than SWIFT. Likewise, when Visa and MasterCard sanctioned Russia, Russians turned to their own credit card system, known as the Ruski Mir, used all over the Eurasian world. And they also turned to China's Visa and MasterCard substitute, which is called Union Pay. And Union Pay is even bigger than Visa and MasterCard. So at the end of the day, today, Russia is in many respects stronger, more economically prosperous, and vibrant than we are in the United States, even when our government has been telling us the opposite. That's why so much of the rest of the world is moving closer and closer, sorry, whether you like it or not, to Russia, just like we predicted 2 years ago. Just like we predicted, the Russian invasion of Ukraine was the great decoupling of the East from the globalist West. That's what it was. It has nothing to effing do with democracy. Nothing, obviously. It's got nothing to do with democracy. It's got nothing to do with Putin trying to reconstruct the Soviet Union. It has everything to do with the rising multipolar world, where now the world is moving eastward, farther and farther away from us and our aristocratic lunatics that run our asylums that used to be respectable institutions. And so now what you've got, because of these aristocratic lunatics running things in the West, is you now have the number one natural resources exporter in the world by far, Russia, teaming up with the number one, should keep my finger one, teaming up with the number one manufacturer in the world, China. This is what gave Kissinger nightmares. China accounts for 30% of the world's manufacturing, by far the largest global share. China is the number one trading partner with the vast majority of nations all throughout the world. A single Chinese shipbuilding port builds more ships in a single one Chinese shipbuilding port builds more ships than the whole of the United States shipping manufacturing ports combined. You have the largest nuclear arsenal in the world, Russia, aligning now with the largest military in the world by far in China. And that was brought to you by the dolts in D.C. and the bullies in Brussels. NATO did that. Bullies in Brussels. I should finish my sentence. NATO did that. In the end, NATO did. The woke morons in NATO did that. And so what we're seeing this week in Beijing really is the rising up of a civilizational world order. I mean, we're seeing nothing. We talk about it all the time in this channel, but what we're seeing happening now in Beijing, I mean, this is huge. We're seeing that really is the centerpiece of this, of all of these great ancient civilizations of the past. Right? I always like to say it's like in kaiju-like fashion. They're all rising up, right? Pacific Rim. They're all rising up from the depths below, and they're returning in all of their splendor all over the world. Orthodox Russia, Confucian China, Hindu nationalist India, Shinto Japan, Ottoman Turkey, continental Africanism that's expelling, particularly in the Sahel region, expelling all of the residue, the leftovers from French colonialism, Shiite Persia. And yes, as we're going to find today, even in Europe and the United States, we're seeing a renewed Christian civilizationalism rising up, what scholars refer to as civilizational populism. And this is dramatically changing the world order into a far more nationalist, populist, traditionalist, civilizationalist world that's increasingly replacing a dying, secular, liberal, keeling over globalist order that nevertheless stubbornly persists in and through the institutions that dominate that secular liberal order. So you got the EU, you got the IMF, you got the WTO, you got the silly, laughable legacy media, you got the traditional political parties, you got Manhattan DAs, you've got legal systems, brittle, dying infrastructures. But there is a clear sense that these infrastructures and institutions and organizations just no longer have anywhere near the legitimacy and authority they once enjoyed. It's pretty stunning stuff. In a sense, the globalist institutions, really, when all is said and done, they're just basically rotting out from within, and populations are just more and more turning away from them. No one is taking what's happening in New York right now seriously. No one. I mean, literally, no one. No one in the world is taking it seriously. No one here is taking it seriously. Right? The world over which these institutions once ruled, that world order, is shattering. The technical term is re-territorializing. Populations are increasingly returning to nation, culture, custom, and tradition and reclaiming their regions away from globalist institutions. But in the meantime, and this is so key to understanding, this is so key to staying sane in insane times. In the meantime, in the interim period between the death of the old world order and the rise of a new world order, between the death of globalism and the rise of civilizationalism, we are living in the interim in a very tenuous and turbulent time where nothing makes any sense. It's actually what scholars call post-normality. We're living in post-normal times, which describes this unique interim between the no longer and the not yet. So I actually see our current insanity right now, these left-wing insanities and tyrannies and legal absurdities, as actually part and parcel of a rising conservative civilizational age. So that's, of course, what takes us back full circle to what's happening in Manhattan with this sham trial, obvious sham trial against Trump. These are what are called post-normal times, when nothing makes sense anymore. Anything that we appeal to in the past to make sense of the present fails, because the present represents the collapse of the past, but with a future yet to be realized and restore order. So the insanity that we're seeing today is indeed indicative of the fact that the old liberal globalist order is indeed collapsing, and a new civilizational order is rising, but has yet to fully materialize and restore that order. Now, we appear to be seeing the beginning of that restoration, even here in the West, with the latest election in the Netherlands. This is huge. It's going to absolutely make your day. But first, if you're just joining us, if you want to ask me any of your questions, because YouTube has suspended our super chats, just click on that link below, download our beautiful brand new app, and join one of our levels of support, and you have access to our very own virtual platform where you can ask me all your questions. I'll be happy to answer them on this live stream. Also, I did a video last week on Christians and megachurches taking over California's public schools. I just had actually a number of interviews on it. It's a very, very good video. You want to check it out. It's going to fire you up. But one of the things I point out in that interview is it's actually becoming par for the course in the way patriots, particularly Christian patriots, are rising up and taking over. So, for example, our good friend Jeffrowski's strategy is to use real estate acquisition to basically take over pockets of our country. He already owns over $250 million. Yes, that's billion with a B of real estate all across America. He's the real deal. He's the one I always go to for real estate advice. What's so awesome is that Jeff is doing something comparable to what a lot of these mega churches in California are doing. He's leading a movement of Christian patriots to buy up tons of real estate in order to perpetuate a culture of faith, family, and freedom. So now I know a lot of you have wanted to invest in real estate. You've always thought about like in gold and things like that, or in property, right? You want real money that's going to allow you want to invest in things that are tried and true, time tested, that are traditional. But, and this is the question I always had, you don't know how. You don't know where to start. You don't know who to trust. Guess what? We got one of our own here to do it. Jeff's here to help you do just that. Jeff and his team have opened up some time to talk to you guys about your goals and what you want to do with your finances, your life, and that kind of thing. They're amazing. They're holistic in the way they look at your financial health, as it were. It's a quick 15-minute intro call. I really encourage you to take advantage of it. At the least bit, as Jeff says, you're going to get somebody praying for you, and then you just go about your day if there's not anything you can do. But if you can do something with these guys, gang, this is life-changing. Seriously, click on that link below or go to freeintrocall.com right now to book a call with Jeff and his team. This is really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that you do not want to pass off. Click on that link below and book a call with Jeff and his team today. They're amazing. They're patriots, Christian patriots, and they're here to transform your life and transform our nation. Give them a call. All right, let's talk about the amazing development going on in the nation of the Netherlands. After 5 months of torturous negotiations to form a coalition government, it does appear that the Netherlands will officially have the single most right-wing government in the whole of Western Europe. Geert Wilders, a hero of this channel, he and his Dutch Freedom Party will govern together with 3 other right-wing parties, including the new Dutch Farmers Party, the BBB. Now, remember, the BBB was formed during the Dutch farmers' protests several months back. Remember the Dutch farmers that rose up, rebelled, revolted against their previous administration's attempts at imposing WEF restrictions on agricultural production. That's, of course, because the Netherlands agricultural production gets in the way of you eating bugs, right? So the BBB was formed, a brand new political party, and they stormed into the Dutch parliament. They took over the Senate. I mean, they were literally like 3 weeks old and they took over the Senate. It was that amazing, that blowback against this insane WEF government. And now they are part of an official nationalist populist coalition that is governing the Netherlands. The coalition will represent the single strictest measures on immigration, asylum seekers, refugees, you name it, in the whole of Western Europe. Giorgia Meloni, take note. This is how you do it. Follow the way of Geert Wilders. Wilders has been a staunch proponent of border security for years now, and he's perhaps the single most vocal opponent of Islam inside of Europe, arguing that is absolutely incompatible with European Christian values. Write that down because we're going to talk about that in a moment. He said, quote, "The sun is shining again in the Netherlands. We are implementing the strongest asylum policy ever." Wilders is, of course, a strong ally with our radical right, our far right, our super right, populist leaders such as Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, Giorgia Meloni, of course, although she's been disappointing on the border, and the French opposition leader Marine Le Pen. Now, what's really important here to recognize what's happening here is what we're seeing here is the ascent of what's called civilizational populism in the West. If you don't know that term, write it down. Very important. Well, I'm actually writing a book about it right now as we speak. Civilizational populism. This is, of course, MAGA here in the United States, the Trump movement here in the United States. But in many ways, it's even bigger in Europe. It got started certainly a lot earlier than we did in Europe. Nigel Farage and so forth were all coming on the scenes in the early aughts. And the key here with civilizational populism is that Christianity is once again returning to the European public square. This is cool. Christianity is once again returning with tremendous power and might to the European public square. Even in the most secularized parts of Europe, like Sweden and the Netherlands, Christianity is reemerging as the preeminent principle for the recovery of a distinctively European culture and politics. So Geert Wilders, Jimmy Åkesson of the Sweden Democrats, Marine Le Pen of National Rally, Giorgia Meloni of the Brothers of Italy, and of course, Viktor Orban in Hungary, Andrzej Duda of the Law and Justice Party in Poland. They are all together proclaiming the need for their populations to re-embrace Christianity, to bring Christianity back to the public square so as to provide a cultural bulwark against the Islamification of their respective cultures. So in fact, Le Pen as a whole, how's this for irony? Le Pen has a whole apologetic on how the unique form of French secularism, laïcité, is actually dependent on Christianity. How's that? Right? The days of Richard Dawkins are officially over. Now you actually have European politicians arguing that secularism is dependent on Christianity. It's not at odds with Christianity. Christianity the argument goes, Christianity provides the church-state distinction upon which laïcité is grounded. And if you get rid of an overt commitment to the supremacy of Christianity and its church-state distinction over the land and over the hearts of the people, the French will lose their nation to a religion that knows no such sacred state distinction. So the Netherlands' new government, gang, is but the latest example of yet another Western European nation that is turning and embracing civilizational populism in the midst of a rising civilizationalist world. So we have amazing things going on in Beijing. We've got amazing things going on in the Netherlands and throughout Europe. All at the same time, we've got this insanity, this post-normal insanity going on here in a Manhattan courtroom. But whatever it is, it's all pointing forward to nothing less than a rise of a new civilizationalist world that liberal globalist freaks are powerless to stop. Over to you, gang. Let's see what questions you have. Remember, if you want to ask me your questions because YouTube has suspended our super chats, just click on that link below. Download our beautiful brand new app. Join one of our levels of support, and you'll have access to your own virtual platform where you can ask me all the questions you like. I'll be happy to answer them right here, right now on this live stream. So just click on that link below. Go to fight.turleytalks.com. Sign up for any level of support. You'll automatically go to our backstage virtual platform. You can ask me your questions there and I'll answer them right here. Also, I would be remiss if I did not yet offer you another chance at getting even with the likes of Nancy Pelosi. You know what? She and her ilk have been getting insider trading secrets for decades now, enabling the returns to beat the market. Well, what do you know? Every single year. But thanks to a little known SEC database, guess what? We can have access to the very same trading secrets that these politicians are privy to. We get to see what stocks corporate CEOs are buying up in real time, and we get to piggyback on their trades to gain the same advantage for ourselves that Pelosi and the crooks in DC have. My friend Ross Givens has been tracking insider trading for years now, and his recommendations have led to investment returns of over 200%. Some have hit as high as nearly 1,500%. Now it's your turn. Click on that link below right now and learn how you can learn to trade like Pelosi. Click on that link and learn how to gain an insider advantage for yourself today. All right, Josh, what do we got? What kind of questions do we have today? Ulf, Peter Schutt, Dr. Turley, I have been wondering during the week, which is better, watching your videos and live streams here on YouTube Rumble? Is this live Bible study coming anytime soon, Peter? I was thinking of you the other day because I was thinking, I still owe somebody a live Bible study. Yes, so we are thinking of that. We might actually make that part of the app, just a special offering that you get exclusively for the app. Let's see. Now, you say watching your videos and live streams here or on YouTube or Rumble. Are you on the app? If you're on the app, then definitely. Just the app is going to be, it's our arc. It can never, ever be taken away. Our relationship can never, ever be disrupted. And they're pulling some weird shenanigans right now with this election. Yes, so Mike is saying, yeah, you're on the app. So, yeah, definitely. And that's, I think what we're going to do is we're going to start looking at offerings that are specific to the app that go way beyond just the classes that we offer and so forth that you can take advantage of. And one of those might be the Bible study. So keep updated, but keep me accountable on that. Absolutely, Peter. Sharkin 86, you mean it about reminding you about Styx? Yes. We'll keep reminding you about Styx. So if you guys don't know, Styx Hexenhammer is I think one of the best commentators on YouTube. He is brilliant. He has exclusives on alternative tech, alt tech as well, on BitChute and so forth. So you probably want to subscribe to him. Do it both. Subscribe to him on YouTube. Subscribe to him on things like BitChute. Because when you're on alt tech, you're going to get a few extra exclusives that he doesn't. And this is daily, and he puts up like 5 videos a day, and he always just gives incredibly insightful commentary. So yes, we will get there. Again, like I said, I'm kind of busy because I've got 2 graduations coming up this week. So after this week, we should probably be we should breathe a little bit. But I got a lot of family coming into town and all that sort of stuff, so I'm a little limited. But anyway, very good. Oh, Harrods, we're only doing comments from the app today. There's a technical issue with Insight. Oh, no. Okay. So, Josh, I'm getting a note here. We're only doing comments from the app today. There is a technical issue with Insiders Club just today. So if you're trying to ask a question, make sure you go through the app. So just download the app, join one of the tiers of support, and that way you can ask me your question. Puppetgate, do you think the deep state will have accepted that Trump will win and have made a deal with him and that they are putting up guardrails? That is one theory. That's one argument. That the establishment is. I mean, look. So let's take a step back. Biden's poll numbers are devastating. Okay, Jimmy Carter would be shocked by these poll numbers. Right? His poll numbers are devastating. You don't come back from these. He right now he's poised to lose every single swing state and by big margins. Okay, there's no cheating your way out of this one. You got a margin of fraud about 2%, 3%. But I mean, Trump in like Nevada, we're talking double digits. Okay. This is insane. These are insanely. Biden has not led an Arizona poll or a Georgia poll in over a year. There's no coming back from this. Everybody knows Biden. Everybody knows Trump. This is an election like no other. These are two incumbents running against each other. And every poll shows it, again, by double digits. People think Trump was the better president. So it's a referendum on who do you think's the better president. So Trump's going to win. So obviously the establishment is saying, okay, we got to make nice with this guy. He's going to come into office and he's going to go full animal in the deep state that's been trying to put him into jail. We got to make sure we're not on the other. We're not one of the ones that get rounded up. I have no doubt that's happening backstage. To what extent it's going to be successful, we'll have to see. But I have no doubt whatsoever that more and more people are trying to get in Trump's good graces because they see the writing on the wall. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, if somehow this jury finds President Trump guilty, and they could remember his crime is being Trump, right? Do you think they try to jail him immediately? Think that would be the straw that breaks the camel's back and people revolt? I'm with you, Rock Dog. I do. I was reading, what commentary was I reading yesterday? Red Eagle Politics is really, really good. Just first class analysts of polls. And they have some internal polls as well. What we're finding, this is backfiring. This is backfiring big time. I think that's why CNN is finally getting honest about what's happening here. MSNBC is getting honest about what kind of, just total circus sideshow this really is. I think they're coming to terms with the fact that this isn't working. It's not that it's not working, double negative. It's not that it's not working. It's that it is actually backfiring. This trial is making Trump more popular and it's making Biden less popular. And I don't know about the jail. It remains to be seen. But I think either way, Red Eagle's right. No matter what, Trump's the winner. If he's acquitted, he gets to run around, swirling his cane going, ha ha, I told you. If it's a hung jury, he gets to swirl his cane going, ha ha, I told you. If he's convicted, he gets to run out and say, you saw the evidence. You saw Michael Cohen collapse, crash, nosedive on the witness stand. You guys all heard about it. You all saw what happened, and yet they still convict him because they're a bunch of left-wing lunatics in California, in Manhattan. And so this is weaponized legalism as its worst. They know they can't win in November, blah, blah, blah. But you put him in jail on top of all of that. The irony is jailed politicians tend to win. Just look at Brazil, right? Look at Lula. Lula was in prison for what, 2 years? Jailed politicians tend to win because they become a man of the people. And the people feel like finally somebody's going to listen to us because he himself has experienced the abuse of the permanent political class in a way comparable to how we have. So I think either way he wins. This they recognize. So this ties in with the previous question. I think more and more are reckoning, regardless of how this plays out, they're recognizing we better make peace with Trump, at least just to hedge our bets, because dang, if he gets into power, he is going to go full animal. Let's see. I love opera. I think it's love opera, as you should. I do as well. One of my favorites is Boris Godunov by Mussorgsky. I love Boris Godunov. Steve, isn't Cohen supposed to be a fixer? He could fix a 14-year-old prankster. True. I mean, so this to me, Trump. Trump does have some responsibility in this. He has surrounded himself with some idiots, no question. And Cohen has got to be the idiot of idiots. He's the fixer, but the only fixer he does is he fixes things in Trump's favor without meaning to do so. That's for sure. I love opera. Great. I love it. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, do you think that New York and New Jersey may now be in play for Trump to flip in November? Yes, absolutely. Yes. Now, having said that, Rich Barris thinks it could be fool's gold. You have to be very careful, particularly with Jersey. Jersey is a Democrat machine, and you have to have some massive revolt, basically, like you had with Chris Christie, to put in a Republican. We almost pulled it off in 2022. But would it be that massive of a revolt in a presidential year? I don't know. In a presidential election, New York Lee Zeldin got within just a few points of becoming governor of New York. He's the most successful since George Pataki 20 years ago, and Pataki ended up becoming a presidential contender. You've had a bit of a red wave going on throughout Long Island, through a number of regions. Remember, New York is primarily conservative. New York is, I forget how many, let's say, say it's 60 counties. It's only about 7 counties that are solid blue. Now, they happen to be New Yorkers with their population centers, but it can happen. Yes. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen this year. I would look at more at Virginia and Minnesota, but if there's some money left over, put it in again, you need to get out the vote apparatus. That's the thing. It's not just running commercials and so forth. You got to make sure you're keeping up with the mail-in ballots in these blue states, because Democrats know how to exploit that. Again, local Republicans have figured it out pretty well in these respective states. But definitely, I think if there were ever a year, this is the year to do it, to expand the electoral map to possibly even New York and New Jersey. But I would look more at Virginia and definitely Minnesota. Virginia, Minnesota, the lead is literally within 1 point. Biden's lead. So it's within the margin of error. And Biden in 2020 did substantially worse than his polling, whereas as Trump, both in 2016 and 2020, always overperforms his polling. So he can do it. He can do it. I mean, this may be the biggest landslide victory for a Republican we've seen since 1988. Kenneth Briant, good to see you. Kenneth, do you think there's a rational person on that jury to hold out and force a mistrial despite their TDS? We'll see. We'll see, Kenneth. I don't know. The makeup. I mean, again, you can only, you have to assume the vast majority of them came in there ready to convict, right? This is a kangaroo court. So they were ready to convict. We'll see. Again, it may not even go. You may get the direct verdict. It may not even get directed verdict. You may not even go to trial. We'll see. I doubt it, though. I doubt this Judge Merchant will do it. He'll probably send it to the jury, and hopefully they'll just, all you need is one to go, guys, I mean, this is insane. I mean, this is nuts. I know we all want to take down Trump, but we have a nation. We have the integrity of a nation to hold on to here. Paulie, do not all criminal charges have to have some kind of number attached to designate the offense? What's the statute they're charging Trump with? This alone should make the appeal mandatory. I'm with you. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea how they're getting away with this, Paulie. It's insane. It is insane. Again, Jonathan Turley, my namesake of George Washington University, every time he's interviews, just says, this case is an embarrassment. It's a legal embarrassment. We don't even know what he's being charged with. What crime did he commit? Well, he tried to cover up another crime. Oh, what is that crime? Well, he tried to keep an affair from his campaign based on a ledger, based on an accounting ledger that was entered after the election ended. And how is paying hush money specific to a campaign? People do it all the time. It's an industry in of itself. But, I mean, it's insane. We don't know what he actually did. And again, he never even paid it. It wasn't him. It was his organization. It's insane. The one guy who was supposed to tie Trump directly to the payment collapsed under the cross exam. That's just insane. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, do you see President Trump dumping Russian sanctions combined with our drilling bring us together economically? We'll see. I mean, again, our deep state is so anti-Russia. That's one of the things they took him down with the whole, Russian collusion fiasco, nonsense hoax. They're doing everything they possibly can to further demonize Russia while at the same time further delegitimize Trump. So I don't know. They may try something again like that. But he's got to go full animal. He's got to say, this is just the same old bullshit we're always dealing with here. And I don't, you guys in the media can go ahead and report this to your blue in the face. I'm cracking skulls. I'm finding out who's behind this and they're going down. He's got to do that. So hopefully, I don't know. We're going to have to get our own society back in shape, right? So we can look to Nayib Bukele in El Salvador, Javier Milei in Argentina, Viktor Orban in Hungary. There's a lot of examples, ironically, even Putin in Russia, who took on his deep state. There's a lot of examples of very successful leaders who've taken on their deep state and won. But we'll see with Javier Milei. It looks like he's winning and have won. And that's what we're going to have to do. And once we crush the deep state, then yes, we're going to have to do a détente, a rapprochement with Russia and the Russian Federation, because there's so much that unites our country in terms of Christianity and mutual Christian commitment, a mutual love of classical Western civilization. I mean, the Cyrillic alphabet is, if you learn Greek, you've learned basically 80% of Cyrillic alphabet. So we all come out of Jerusalem, Athens, and Rome. They're considered the third Rome in Orthodox theology, Moscow-based Orthodox theology. So there's so much that unites us. This whole absurdity of, they're autocrats, they're authoritarian, we're Democrats. We believe in democracy is such bullshit. Nobody buys that anymore. Everybody recognizes politics is downstream from culture. So that means if you have different cultures, you're going to have different politics. There's just no way around it. And like what Japan does and what China does and what India does, you just learn to get along. You stop trying to convert everybody. You stop trying to engage in regime change and you get along. or usually along comparable economic interests. Just bring us together economically, just like you're saying, Rockdog. So we'll see. Old Polar, what's your take on Biden wanting debates? I don't know how to take that. There's a couple of obvious things. One, it's a sign of desperation. If Biden were ahead, if Biden had anywhere near the lead he had in 2020, he wouldn't be debating Trump. He'd be pushing him off to the side. I wouldn't lower myself. He'd be saying exactly what Nancy Pelosi is saying. I wouldn't lower myself to such. So the very fact that he's debating him shows that his campaign is getting very desperate. They need something. And James Carville has been saying, and Joe Scarborough have been saying that this trial in New York is actually working to Trump's benefit because he's not on the campaign trail saying dumb stuff that Biden can react to each day. So, so they see Trump as a clown. So they believe that bringing Trump out in a debate is somehow going to be an advantage to Biden. They're going to pump him up with God knows what to just keep him cognizant for that hour or so, hour and a half. However, having said that, the strictures that he put on, that it had to be done by CNN and ABC, that it had to be done without a studio audience, because obviously somebody with dementia gets very, very distracted by that. You saw that in the press conference when he tried to assuage everyone that Thursday night, after the Hurt report came out, tried to assuage the world that, no, I am at the top of my game. And then you saw it when people were shouting out questions. You could tell his brain can't process it anymore. Everyone sees. By the way, again, I have international family. Everybody sees it. The world sees it. They're not fooling anybody. So why Trump would give in to those demands, I have no idea. Trump's winning. He doesn't have. He could actually look at Biden and say, "No, we're going to have a debate. It's going to be moderated by Tucker, and we're going to do it in an amphitheater. We're going to let the world. We'll do it right here in New York. We'll do it in Madison Square Garden. I mean, he could have set the terms. Why did he let Biden set the terms? So that's, to me, something else seems to be happening here. In the end, I think they're desperate. They put forward terms that, were the debates to happen, would be favorable to Biden, but the terms are so absurd that I could see Trump probably saying, "Okay, no, but I want an audience," and then Biden said, "Oh, well, there you go, you blew it." Trump backed out of the debates. You see that? He agreed to the terms, and now he's backed out. So again, it's not going to work. Nobody's paying any attention to this nonsense. Nobody's going to vote one way or the other based on the debate. So there's another theory that this is the way they're putting the debates very early. First one's in June. Normally debates aren't until September, October. So they're putting them in very early before the primaries. And Sebastian Gorka thinks this might be an excuse the Democrats are going to use to get rid of Biden. I don't see that, but so we'll see. We'll see. But in the end, I just think it's a waste of everyone's time. Why legitimize CNN and ABC? Why bother? They're going to just, it's 3 against 1, right? It's Biden plus the 2 moderators versus Trump. Why? But he's great. I mean, he can be really good in a debate. Very funny. I mean, he tends to it shows he's fearless. He's very, very cocky when it comes to CNN, but that's for sure. He knocks CNN. When he did their town hall with him, he was smacking that moderator left and right. Pepagate, will we get emojis on the chat on the new Turley Talks app? That'd be great. We'll have to talk to the app developers, see if we can get some emojis. That'd be cool. Paulie, the U.S. is obviously trying to conquer the world. Why? Why can't we all just get along, right? Trump wanted to turn Russia into a trading partner, but he listened to the wrong people. It's Russia and China instead. Yes. That's brilliant. That's a brilliant point. that what's happening in Russia and China, I think Trump envisioned happening to the United States and Russia. The United States, because Trump is all about manufacturing. He's all about energy independence. And what better way to do that than to bring manufacturing back home, make us the manufacturing powerhouse in the world, make us energy independent, but then hook up with and make our number one trade partner, or one of the top trade partners, the number one energy exporter in the world. And we just work together with our manufacturing base and their energy exporting base. I mean, yeah, but nope. Now China's going to get a boost in their manufacturing as a result. They're going to get cheaper oil. They're going to get cheaper gas. Russia gets all the goods it could possibly ever dream of from a 1.4 billion populated nation with a manufacturing industry the likes of which the world has never seen before. So, no, you're right. It's insane. But our globalist elite could not admit that we are moving into another world where there are multiple power centers. They could not admit that 1991 is all over. The era of 1990. That's what Colonel Doug McGregor says all the time when he's on the channel. 1991 has been basically plasticized in Washington, D.C. They still actually believe we're in a unipolar world where NATO gets to be, and NATO and the United States get to do whatever they want to do. And everyone has to go, oh, we're sorry. Okay. Right. And Pax Americana. And what Ukraine proves, what the tensions around Taiwan prove, even to a certain extent, what the conflict in Israel and Hamas proves, is that world is dead. So you have this unipolar lag. You have this institutional lag, like we're seeing in our own nation, where these aristocratic elites are still ruling. They're still calling shots, but the shots are not having anywhere near the global effect they once would have. And as a point of fact, are just hastening the recalibration of the world away from that unipolar lag. Nobody wants these guys anymore. And you see it with the kicker's name? Harrison Butker of the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, you're seeing it with that, where a guy can't even get up in front of a Catholic graduating, university audience and say, we really should return to traditional values. That's what he said. He can't even say that without being mocked and ridiculed by our aristocratic elite, by our Hunger Games aristocratic elite. And so that's why so much of the world, 85, 90% of the world's looking at the United States and just going, you guys are just, you're not stable. You're mentally unstable. You're morally unstable. You're just not stable. They make a distinction. We are by the grace of God, because of faith, family, and freedom. We have stability. We're tapped into a civilization that's 2,000 years old. But this modern, secular, Hunger Games aristocratic elite, they're lunatics. They're mental, moral lunatics, and the world sees it. Anyway, we can keep going and going, Paul. You know where I'm coming from. Mevida Loca. Seriously, how long should Trump allow for fumigation and detailing before he resumes occupation of the White House? Good question, Phil. Well, I don't know. There's got to be at least a week of fumigation. I agree. There's got to be something. I mean, there's some. There's a lot to fumigate in there, and just in Washington, D.C. as a whole, the swamp gases are very, very toxic, no question. I love it. Rock Dog, Dr. C, 40 years ago, we were the largest exporter of grains and meat products for the world. Do you see us finally getting rid of this globalist in this country under Trump and getting back to being a larger exporter of grain, beef, and oil? Yeah, I mean, if we are more America first, MAGA, and certainly after COVID, we saw how supply chains globalist supply chains do represent a threat to national security. Another nation could cut us off from drugs if they wanted to, very, very needed drugs, even hydroxychloroquine or what have you, when we found that virtually all our drugs were being manufactured overseas. So we saw that. We saw how important it was to have to be an exporting economy, not rely solely on importing. If we are, then remember the world is divided up between finance, food, and fuel. Right? Finance, food, and fuel. That's what governs the world. The WEF, the dolts in DC, and the bullies in Brussels thought that if you controlled finance, you controlled the world. If you controlled the world's cash, if you control the world's currency, you control the world. This is what's behind CBDCs. This is what's behind all, deep banking and so forth. We control finance. We control the world. What Russia and China are proving is no, he who controls food and fuel controls the world. Let's see you eat your cash. Right. So he who controls commodity, this is Austrian-based economics. He who controls commodities controls the world. Cash is nothing without commodity. You've got to have commodity. So I think Trump and Biden, by implication, by default, have proven that. Now the question is the extent to which we can get our dolts in DC to align with what the rest of us know. Eventually we will. I mean, because I happen to believe secular liberalism entails its own demise. So it is, what we're seeing is it's dying of its own, cuts. It's bleeding itself out. But the rest of the world is seeing that and are moving away from secular liberalism and embracing more civilizationalism. And so that's just hastening the demise of globalism. But everyone sees globalism as basically dead. Even Peter Zion is, and Peter Zion's he's as bearish on China as you can possibly get, and bearish on Russia. He just mocks China and Russia, and he thinks they're nothing. He thinks this is the next century will be the U.S. century, continue to be the U.S. century, but primarily from a manufacturing base. He thinks globalism is dead. So even guys who are not even eyeing this civilizationalist world see that inevitably we're going to go the way of commodity rather than the globalist vision of cash. Kenneth, Dr. Turley, given the collapse of globalism, what place will the United States have in a multipolar world? We will be very powerful. We will be I think Zion is right on that. I disagree with him on a lot of things, but his assessment of the United States, I think he's right on with. We will be very powerful. We will be very strong. We will continue to be economically powerful and militarily powerful. Culturally, we're going to have to work some things out because we may end up partitioning. That's what may end up ultimately happening, even if Trump wins. Red states and blue states may separate from each other. I don't know how formal it will be, but it will be informal. We will. So in cities today, you go and you see there are financial districts, there are gentrified districts. There are just parts of the city that are immaculate. Think of the Magnificent Mile area of Chicago. You won't see a homeless person literally within a mile. You could eat off the streets. Absolutely immaculate. But you go, 10 miles any way, north, south, east, west, and all of a sudden you're in the middle of Mogadishu. If anything, that's an insult to Mogadishu, right? That's what's happening to the United States. Red states are becoming the Magnificent Mile. Red states are becoming the place of economic growth, economic vitality, but also moral growth, moral vitality. It's a place where conservative government doesn't get in your way, but it does defend the true, the good, and the beautiful, doesn't let insanity come in. And blue states are just becoming one big, massive inner city. Blue states are just becoming one big, massive, failed society. California is literally imploded. There's more dung in San Francisco than there is in most zoos or something like that combined. I forget there was some stat with the amount of poop they have on their sidewalks. So, I think that's what's happening to the United States, is we are partitioning. We're becoming a tale of two different nations, two nations within a single country, maybe is another way of putting it. We're becoming red state America, which is MAGA America, a big, massive super state, MAGA super state. And then the coastal states are collapsing. They're losing population. They're getting overrun with illegal migrants. Their police forces are imploding because of defund the police, corrupt Soros-backed DAs. And so red state America is going to have to build a wall of some kind, not just between us and Mexico, but between us and blue states. Now, it's not a literal wall, but it would have to be some kind of, administrative legal wall so as to protect the sanctuary status, as it were, of sanity in red states. So I think we'll continue to be very strong no matter what happens internally, as maintained by red states, financially and militarily. And but we don't get to call the shots anymore. We don't get, if Russia wants to work something out with Georgia, the nation Georgia, we're going to have to let them do it. We don't get to stand up going, oh, you don't get into democracy. We don't get to do that. They've been working stuff out for 1,200 years. Let them continue to work it out. That's not for us. Now, we could team up with Beijing to say, we're very concerned about this, and Beijing could come back and say, so are we. We like to keep things stable so that we can keep trade and so forth. And so that DC and Beijing, ironically, can work together to try to bring resolution between Tbilisi and Moscow. But the days of us standing up and saying, you are a bad actor and we have the moral authority to debank you and basically isolate you from the civilized, those days are over. We can't do that anymore. We have to work together with countries to try to get our interests best represented. But we have to work together. We don't get to bully people anymore. Ukraine is the biggest middle finger to NATO bullying that we have seen in 30 years. So that's some. Thank you, Kenneth. Marilyn Degatti. Dr. Steve, there are 10% to 27% of illegals already registered to vote. What do we do? And a Christian news network saying that there's no hope to reverse the declining birth rate, that they're saying that Hungary isn't doing enough. Denethor alert. Pour oil on yourself, light yourself on fire, and jump off a cliff. Yeah, you got to be careful with that doom and gloom. It sells in conservative circles. Right? Rage porn sells in conservative circles, so you got to be careful. All right. Well, let's take a step back. Let me do it in reverse. Hungary has done some very good. There's been some reports, number of reports that have come out and showed that Hungary has reversed its declining birth rates. It's not at 2.1 yet. It's got to be at that replacement level. That's what we're looking for. But it's certainly reversed. I mean, if you get, if you have 4 kids, you don't pay any income tax. I remember it was her name, Caitlin Novak. She was she used to be vice. Was she president, or I forget what she was? But at the time she was the Minister of Culture. She announced that in Verona at the World Council of Families back in 2019. They were rolling that out in 2021. She made sort of the first official announcement to this international audience. I spoke there. It was wonderful. No, they are reversing the decline. Now, are they at the 2.1 replacement level? No, not yet, but they are getting there. Georgia, the nation of Georgia, is doing it. Russia's doing it as well. How are they doing it? They're turning away from these idiot alternative lifestyle, policies, human rights, and say, no, human rights don't matter, or your twisted definition of human rights don't matter when humanity itself is at stake. We're losing humanity, right? Black lives don't matter if life doesn't matter. So let's get life mattering first, then we can talk about all these other things. So I just simply don't buy that. I've seen the studies and they have reversed it. So I would say that report is wrong. I don't know where you're getting your numbers of 10 to 30% of illegals have already registered to vote. I don't know where you're getting those numbers. I don't know how you even prove that. You cannot vote legally in the country if you're an illegal alien. It is unconstitutional. That will, if that is uncovered, if 30% of illegals, of millions and millions of illegals, have been registered to vote, that will overturn the election. No matter, I guarantee you, if it goes Trump's way, it will definitely overturn the election. Guarantee you there. So Marilyn Degatti, I do not know how to answer your question. I don't know if I accept those. I'd have to see the evidence of that. And let's put it this way. I mean, if 30% of illegals are going to vote, we don't know how they're going to vote. They're probably voting by ballot. The ballots are most likely already filled out. But we could find out we could easily find out their legal and illegal status, and have the election overturned that way. But no, if that's the case, and then we're cooked, and we're gonna, instead of light yourself on fire and jumping off the cliff, you got to fight with everything you got. And when the smoke clears, and if Biden is still standing, then we begin the process of partitioning. We begin the process of moving to red states, going to Texas, voting for a Texas referendum, doing whatever you have to do in order to protect faith, family, and freedom from its further erosion and rot from blue states and from Washington, D.C. That's what you do. Marlene, now that they see Trump is likely to win House and Senate, will they do a Paul Ryan if the Republicans win both? Yeah. So I think Trump, the difference with Paul Ryan is Trump was willing to work with the rhinos back then in a way that I don't think he's willing to work with them now. I think to his fault, he still is going to be working with them, but I also think he's going to be leading from intimidation. Because remember, this is his second term. This is a lame duck term. So this is going to be a second term like we've never seen before. And he's going to go full animal on his enemies. And everyone is going to be doing their best to show and prove they're not an enemy. So you're still going to have your Mike Johnsons and Paul Ryan idiocies, reincarnated in Mike Johnson. But I think he's going to be much more compliant with Trump than Paul Ryan was. Jules, Dr. Steve, my friend won her case against Fannie. Judge ordered Fannie to pay legal fees of $100,000 back to plaintiff. Trump needs his info. Get it to him, man. Yeah, definitely get it to him. Who could you contact? You might want to reach out to Eric Trump or Donald Trump Jr. on Twitter, on the messaging on X now. It's officially X. Did you see that? It's now X.com. And send it out to him. Give him that info. That'll be awesome. Marco DZ, it's funny how observing God's creation, regardless of the lens, leads you to inescapable conclusions. Take physics. We live in a world fallen from mathematical perfection, and there are limits to what we can ever observe of this world. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, even our whole conception of politics, historically speaking, and law and justice are all rooted in divine principles embedded in the universe. This is Confucianism. This is Taoism. This is classical natural theology and the Christian tradition, our founding fathers, right? Talking about nature and nature's laws and nature's God. In science, and historians of science are nearly unanimous on this. You would never have had the concept of a natural law without first the belief that there was a lawgiver in nature, right? When we really first started to see modern science surface, it's in the 17th century. That's usually the line of demarcation that historians of science look at. That's where you really begin to see all the previous knowledge that we were accumulating in the medieval period. John Philoponus, one of the great scientists from the 6th century in Byzantium, was a leading proponent, one of the first proponents of inductive reasoning, of starting from the particular and then opening up more universal conclusions from it. And he used the incarnation, interestingly enough, as his example, because the only way we truly know God is through Christ, by God lowering himself, making himself human. So now we have open to us the Trinitarian glories of God, but in and through a face, in and through Christ, an instantiation of God. So we start with the particular and then we work out ourselves to the universals, rather than the deductive method that Aristotle used, where you start with universals and whittle your way down to the particulars. But they recognize that the 17th century is really the century when all of this accumulated knowledge comes together. There is no separation between church and religion and science, none whatsoever. It doesn't exist. They interact they're still interacting to this day. But in the 17th century, all of the major scientists, all of them in the West, were all devout Christians who believed that science was a means of worship. They treated science, I heard it put this way by a historian of science, they treated science the way Bach treated music. It was done, they were brilliant geniuses who were expert technicians who used that genius and that technical expertise solely and ultimately for the glory of God. So there's no, yeah, you got it. Beautiful. Well, beautiful observation. Rock Dog, if Trump is able to pull a rabbit out of his hat and China, Russia, and U.S. start working together, do you think that's finally the way to world peace? I do. I mean, I may be naive, but at least for the foreseeable future, I think you have tremendous geopolitical stability if Beijing, DC, and Moscow are working together. And if the dolts in DC will stop trying to plant, velvet revolutions in everybody's backyard, so that they can replace them with the government they can control. But we do it for democracy, absolutely. Because then, you're bringing in all kinds of other governments at the same time. You're bringing in Tokyo, you're bringing in Tehran, right? You're bringing in Ankara, you're bringing all kinds of, you're just, the world suddenly, I think, starts coming into a geopolitical balance. I do. We'll see. I may be naive there, but I think that'd be magnificent. Jules, am I the only one who knows, or am I wrong that the only people that are selective LGBTQ cutting off their are white kids? I don't know, Jules. I haven't made that. You just wanted me to read that. Oh, I'll get you back, Jules. I'll get you back. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I will say this. I think so much of it is pushed by an affluent class. I will say that. So much. That is a thesis of wokeness. I forget, there's a British public intellectual argues that wokeness is basically the religion of the affluent, the Western affluent. You won't see anything even remotely woke anywhere else in the world. It is entirely a Eurovision, Hollywood, DC, Brussels phenomenon. It is an aristocratic people who lost touch of the religion and the sacred underpinnings that gave them their affluence in the first place. That's Weber's argument for Christianity in the West, and how Christianity was absolutely essential for Western progress, both technological as well as economic. We've forgotten the sacred source of our affluence and are now basically rotting morally. And that's what wokeness is. Wokeness is a bizarre moral system that sees itself as superior when it is probably the most laughable moral system imaginable. Chuckin, is it wrong to be sad and kind of afraid of U.S. losing our leadership in the world? No, it's not at all. It's not at all. It's totally avoidable. It didn't have to happen. We could have been a major player and leader in this rising multipolar order. But as you know, leaders don't like to give up their place. It's happened a couple of times historically where leaders voluntarily give up. George Washington was one of them. He could have, if he wanted to, he could have been king. But that's where wisdom comes in. That's where virtue comes in. Not just good old-fashioned power politics, but something deeper than that has to be operative, or else the world is just purely tragic. And that's hard to, have Bach's and Shakespeare's in a world that is purely tragic. You've got to have comedy, the classical notion of comedy. Comedies always end in feasts, as foretastes the messianic banquet. So I think you're right to really lament the loss of what we had. But unfortunately, the more I reflect on it, I just think it was baked into the cake of our commitment to liberalism, and both sides, both right and left, commit to liberalism as an autonomous ideology, failing to see what our founding fathers saw, which is if you want to be truly free, you must be virtuous. You must tap into a self-governing virtue system. Because otherwise, freedom easily becomes libertinism. And the more libertine we become, as we see, the more the government has to do to try to maintain order. So libertinism is our quickest way to tyranny. But in order to tap into a virtue tradition, you had to tap, all of our founding fathers believed this, you had to tap into one of the major religions. John Adams said that. Our republic is for a religious people. You had to tap into a religion. But if you wanted a true religion, you had to be free. Because coerced, forced faith is not faith. If you want a true religion, you got to be free. It's got to be disestablished. But if you want true freedom, you have to have virtue. And if you have virtue, you've got to have a religion. But if you want a true religion, you got to be free. So that's what's known as the founding fathers' golden triangle of freedom. So we bought into the notion that you could just run around and go liberty, 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 right? Like now I feel like buying car insurance. You just run around and say liberty, 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 completely amputated from any faith and virtue tradition. And here we are. You're ultimately going to liberate yourself from sanity. You're going to liberate yourself from normalcy. You're going to liberate yourself from liberty. It goes insane. Yeah. So anyway, so there you go, Chuck. And I think it's sad, but I think it was baked in the cake, and I think we can recover it. But it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of rebuilding. I got are you talking? Is Josh? I got a note from our moderator, Josh. Ha ha ha! You're talking about my car insurance, Kenneth Briant. Then Texit is more than likely. Then yes, I think Texit becomes very likely if Trump loses. Yes, very very likely. Yes, we all may be running. Yeah, Josh, liberty, liberty, liberty. Yeah, we may all be moving down to Texas. We all may be neighbors. That'd be kind of cool. Jules, Dr. Steve, they are giving them driver's license. Okay, it's federal deal with restrictions and an address. That's all, plus one more form of ID that's needed to vote in Illinois. Again, not in federal elections. Not that I know of, Jules. Again, I'll have to say, but not as I understand it. In federal elections, you must be a citizen. It's just because you have a driver's license doesn't mean you can vote. You've got to be a citizen. In order to register to vote in a federal election, you have to be a citizen. There's no way around it. Now, again, I may be wrong, and if I'm wrong, and if it's, by the way, Trump isn't going to win in Illinois. Okay, he's not going to win in Illinois. Illinois is going to vote for Biden by double digits. So it's not going to be the question, when all is said and done, is it going to be happening in any of the swing states? That's where we have to be nervous about. Charkin, do you think some of these naysayers in the right are actually saboteurs? Some are, Charkin, some are. Some of the Denethors are definitely, psyop in that sense, or saboteurs, right? I mean, most from what I can tell, most I do think are legit. Because look, I see the modern world as liberal. So when I think of liberal versus conservative, I will use the terms the way we generally use them, right? Right versus left. But in my analysis, liberal versus conservative is actually more epochal, more epoch-like. Epoch. Epical. Still working on that pronunciation, right? Epical. Because I always used to call it the epic times, and somebody says, there's a difference between EPIC and EPOCH. So all right. So I'll try to get that right. It's like the New England Primer or the New England Primer, whatever. But I see it as epical. I see the modern epoch, more or less beginning the 18th century of the Enlightenment, going all the way to just a few short years ago, that it's now dead. That modern epoch was all liberal because its view of history was whatever came before us was in the dark. We're the enlightened ones. Those are the dark ages. Those are the ages of, the knuckle draggers, the savages, the ignorant people, they're backwards. Anything in the past is to be shunned. The hope is totally and completely in the future. That was Marx, right? And so the modern age, it didn't matter if you were on the left or the right. You still, we get those terms from the French Revolution, and the so-called conservatives sat on the right of the assembly, and the so-called liberals sat on the left. But they were both revolutionaries, right? They were both revolutionaries. So the modern revolutionary world is by its nature liberal. It's trying to liberate humanity from the traditions of the past. So conservatives, those who are traditionalists, who believe that there are beliefs, institutions, and practices of the past that are necessary for the present so as to guarantee our future flourishing. So they see a continuity in time and space. We have always felt vilified and we've always felt like this modern world is not our home. We've always felt like strangers in a strange land. So it's easy for conservatives to get very, very black-pilled, pessimistic, doomsayer, naysayer. It's very easy because we have thus far lived in an epoch, in an age that basically stands against everything we love. What I try to do as much as I possibly can on this channel is to inform everyone that day and that age is over. That age, that liberalism is dead. And it killed itself largely. It was unsustainable, having cut itself off from its sacred religious roots that are necessary for any civilization to renew itself and replenish itself morally, spiritually, politically, economically. And so that's what you're seeing today. What you're seeing today is the movement into a whole new world. But what's adding craziness to it is we're in between the no longer and the not yet. And so, if anything, our society is even more insane than it's ever been. And so then that's just exacerbating the naysayers. So what I try to do is I do try to talk them off the cliff, saying, look, it's going to be rough. It's going to be hard. But believe it or not, the old days where we felt like we're strangers in a strange land, actually that's coming to an end. The world is getting radical. Even the most communist nation on the planet calls itself Confucian today. They're not reading Marx. They're reading the Analects of Confucius. It's fascinating stuff that's happening there. So the world is moving in our direction. It's going back to tradition, custom, civilization. But before it establishes that order again, it's going to be weird because we don't have the past to draw from. And the president is not yet. So it's going to be weird. So that's what I try to do. But yes, some naysayers are saboteurs as well. Trolls, as we would call them. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, as I stated before, now on a fixed income after cancer and retirement from the fire services. Monthly payment is my best investment in our future. Thank you again. Thank you, Rock Dog. Thank you. I remember when you told me that, dude. I almost lost it, man. Dude, I almost lost you. Almost had me. You almost had me freaking ugly crying on a live stream. Thank you, Rock Dog. God bless you. God bless you. May God truly bless you and your loved ones and your life as well. Paulie, no, we, the U.S., no longer deserve to be the world leader. We're now the bad guys on the world stage, and I never thought that would happen. I agree with you. I agree. I did a video not too long ago, where it used to be there was the Soviet Union that was this was in Putin's inauguration. As part of Putin's inauguration, he gets blessed by the Russian Orthodox Church in a ceremony almost exactly the same as the Tsar was blessed by the church. And I said, 30 years ago, it was the Soviet Union that was the atheistic force of the world that was trying to tear down tradition and custom and culture. And it was the United States that was defending the liberty of nations to be able to govern in accordance with their own sovereignty, as over and against this attempt to form a worldwide communist utopia. And Khrushchev's words that will bury the West. So it was, ironically, the United States defending the Christian West over and against an atheist East. As Pat Buchanan pointed out, it has completely reversed itself. It is the East that is now defending Christianity. It's the West that has gone insanely atheist. Again, all you have to do is look at the way Harrison Butker's speech was received by the so-called ladies at The View. If ever there were living embodied symbols of the rot and decay, cultural rot and decay of our nation, it's those women. I mean, they're just so, they're not even anywhere near reality. It's just so odd to hear them. I was thinking of actually doing a reaction video, and I watched some of it coming from the ladies of The View, mocking this young traditionalist Catholic, calling these graduates back to tradition, to civilizational recovery. And these ladies of The View, the way they mocked him and they ridiculed him, it was just, it wasn't even worthy of being commented on. It wasn't even, this is societal degeneracy. This is societal rot in its most explicit form. This is the Soviet Union in its final couple of years, where it was beating its chest louder than ever, but in the end, it was falling apart. So yeah, I'm with you. No, we do not deserve to be the world leader. We are a clown show. I mean, what's happening in Manhattan? I mean, you saw Anthony Blinken overseas announcing the end of democracy, formally announcing the end of democracy in Ukraine. Did you hear that? He said, there will not be another election till all of Ukraine can vote. Meaning, of course, the 20% of Ukraine that Russia took. And he's including Crimea in that as well, stunningly. Which, of course, is permanently a part of Russia. Russia's already said, you attack those regions, you are attacking the homeland of Russia. We will defend it to death. I mean, death of the world if we have to. And he came out and he said there's going to be no elections until all of Ukraine can vote. So in other words, there's not going to be any more elections. And then he got up and he played in a bar, in a Ukrainian bar. He played guitar poorly. And then he sang even more poorly and out of tune. Keep on rocking in the free world. What's happening in New York is a clown show that is indicative of what has become of What has become of our ruling elite? Our ruling elites on both sides of the Atlantic, our ruling elites are clowns. They're absolute and total clowns. And the world doesn't want them anymore. Remember, at the beginning of the 20th century, the West accounted for 30% of the world's population. By 2050, we'll probably be no more than about 10% of the world's population. 90% of the world wants nothing to do with us. And they shouldn't. They just see us as a bunch of lunatics. Again, us being the collective us. They see us through our leaders, through our pop culture, through Hollywood, through Eurovision. They see us as utter moral lunatics, moral and mental lunatics. And because we are. That's what liberalism has turned into. Vicky, Dr. Steve, love your content. My question is, what effect will the sham trial have on the election if he's found guilty? We have some polling on there, Vicky. Now, I know the polling that you'll hear that's being pushed by the legacy media is, it's going to go down. It's going to go down. He goes down 10 points. And Biden finally wins. That's why we have to have this conviction. Obama's own advisor pollsters come out and said they have numbers that show it's actually the opposite. They have data to show it'll actually make people more likely to vote for Trump, because it tends to provoke, those kind of questions tend to provoke a response bias. Will you still vote for him even after he's convicted? And then the person who's on the other end of the phone goes, well, I don't want to, I just told him I'm all for Trump. I don't want him to think I'm a heartland. Well, I'll have to think about, okay, well, that's a no, So it's called response bias. And Obama's former pollster is like, don't even remotely take that seriously. If anything, a conviction is only going to harden his support, if not grow it. So I think we'll actually see his numbers go up. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, with the new voting laws and stricter enforcement in Georgia and Arizona, I would have to say that this would be the last election style they consider both states swing. Swing. What is your thoughts? I agree. We'll have to see how it plays out. But so you've got two dynamics going on in Arizona and Georgia. The first dynamic is Biden has not led there in a poll in over a year in either state, in Arizona or Georgia. I think the last time he led in, I forget which state, I think it was Arizona. It was April of 2023. And the last time he led in Georgia, it was March of 2023. So he hasn't led in either state in over a year. The margins are very thick. They tend to be around that 5.6, 7 points. They're generally very thick. I'd have to look at the RCP average, see where they are. So that's the first dynamic. And then the second dynamic is exactly both Arizona and Georgia have clamped down on election standards. Brian Kemp is reading the writing on the wall. He wants to make sure he delivers Georgia for Trump. He doesn't care whether Trump wins or not. He knows he's got to deliver Georgia for Trump if he's going to have any future in politics. If he's going to, because he pissed Trump off big time back in 2020. If he's going to be able to run for Senate in 2028, he had better make Trump very, very happy. And it looks like he's ready to do just that. So what I think we're seeing here, or is it 2026? I think it's 2026. He's running for Senate. So I think what we're seeing here is a double whammy, a 1-2 punch that's slammed the door shut on Biden in either Arizona or Georgia. And I think you're right. It's for the foreseeable future, at least when it comes to national elections. We'll see what happens. I mean, the problem with Georgia and Arizona is they both become more rural. They both become more urban. So the Democrat vote has grown. But what's interesting with Trump is, as we've talked about, if you've been fine, I know you follow Rock Dog, the political sweet spot that we've been talking about. Trump alone has been able to maximize the rural white vote while at the same time minimize Biden's share of the urban non-white vote. The urban non-white vote is more attracted to Trump than they've ever been to any Republican candidates, primarily Latinos and blacks, that we've seen in 50 years. And this is New York Times and Washington Post admitting this. So the urban advantage that Democrats have had in Arizona and Georgia don't play out for Trump. They're not going to play out in 2024. So you combine that with the polling, with the election integrity initiatives that have been passed there. Those are shut. That means Trump just needs one state. He just needs Wisconsin. He just needs Pennsylvania. He just needs Michigan. He just needs one state after that. Nevada, because it looks like he's going to win by Nevada, possibly even by double digits. Yeah, Nevada won't take it. No, Nevada won't be it. Nevada, I think, is only 6 electoral votes, if I recall. So Nevada is not enough. But he will pick up Nevada. He will pick up Arizona. He will pick up Georgia. And then he just needs to pick up one of a handful of states, and he's got this. It's over. He's 47 again. So, yeah, great insight, Rock Dog. Absolutely. I think, again, from Rock Dog, I think the conundrum of the Democrats are in about replacing Biden is they don't have anyone. I agree 1,000%. Who do you think they could put up to replace Biden, or even as a presidential candidate that could get elected in 2028? They really don't have anyone. Gavin Newsom polls terribly. Kamala polls terribly. Michelle Obama doesn't poll very well, and she's not a candidate. She has no interest in running for president. So it may be an AOC, maybe, God help us, right? Maybe somebody like that. Somebody, yeah. Well, we really, they really honestly don't have anyone, which is stunning. It's very telling as well. All right, gang, that is it. You guys are the best. An amazing civilizationalist world is rising, and you are at the forefront of it. Have a wonderful weekend, gang. I'll see you on Monday. God bless.